Now, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Not quite so fast with Mark Turgeon, nor is Johnny Holiday. None of the adults are around today, as a matter of fact. I'm Chris Nocky. I'm sitting in for Johnny Holiday. Welcome to the Mark Turgeon radio show. We are, in fact, at Buffalo Wild Wings here in College Park, and I have the pleasure of having one of the great substitute teachers of all time, Coach Cliff Warren, sitting in for Mark Turgeon. Both Mark and Johnny are down the street at a Maryland event, and they will be back at the same time next week. But Cliff, congratulations, 1-0, beats the alternative. You guys had a great win against Mount St. Mary's, 80-54 last Friday night, and the review of that game will be brought to us by Toyota. Let's go places. Cliff, you graduated. You wore that jersey.
Many moons ago.
A little different size.
I'll say thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
You bet.
Proud to be a substitute and very thankful we got a win at home for our first game, for our fans, for our team, and very thankful that I got a chance to play at Mount St. Mary's and now coach against Mount St. Mary's.
Was it a little odd when going through that process, doing the scout, getting to know the folks and having worn the uniform and having been to school in Emmitsburg for as long as you were?
I don't think it was it was a little strange. This is the first time I had actually played against Mount St. Mary's as a coach.
That's kind of hard to believe, given the path that you've taken.
True, but I'm so far removed, the number of years being in college coaching. And I did not coach Jamion Christian, who played there well after me. But I know some of the kids that are there. I know guys on the staff. Daryl Bruce, being one of them, coached with me at Jacksonville University. Yep. The athletic director, Lynn Phelan, who is Jim Phelan's daughter, is the person that I played for and then worked for. So a number of people that were there in administration. It was great for me, on a personal note, to see some of my former teammates and some of the young men that I coached there and had a chance to be around at Mount St. Mary's. They all came back to the game, so it was refreshing to see.
That's great, and there was a great element from the Mount in the 17,000 number crowd. Hey, tell me about what your thoughts were after the game, immediately after the game, before you even look at film. And oftentimes what you see on film is different from what you felt like after the game. What's your thoughts right afterwards?
I thought we were more talented. I thought we imposed our will on Mount St. Mary's because of their lack of depth, their lack of size. I thought we wore them down. We kept scoring and scoring and scoring. We got multiple stops in a row, and one of the things we preach on the bench and in practice, if we get multiple stops, 3 stops in a row, we want to cheer that, and we want to make sure we go score in transition because of that, and I thought we did that. So immediately after the game, I thought, okay, we do have some things to work on, of course. I think all coaches are going to nitpick a little bit, but initially I thought, hey, we won the game. We imposed our will on Mount St. Mary's, and we got a W.
Okay, now fast forward to Saturday. You get a chance to look through the tape and put some clips together. What did you see? How did you feel after you saw the tape?
I think, yes, we have a lot of things to work on. We've got to get better. I thought as the game progressed, we got a little bit better. But I think the rest of the staff kind of agreed, hey, we need to do a better job at a number of different things. Not to go into specifics, but it's still early in the year. We played a lot of guys in the game. Nobody played over 30 minutes, which was great. Everybody, I believe, that played got a defensive rebound, which was great. So now we've got to take that another step forward. Hey, can everybody get an offensive rebound? Hey, can everybody score? Can everybody get an assist? That's how we're going to play this year to be effective and to continue to win games.
What surprised you from that game? Is there anything that stood out?
What surprised me from Mount St. Mary's was that they didn't make as many shots. If you watch them on film from previous years, they made a lot of shots, 3-point shots, from different players. It wasn't just 1 or 2 guys.
And it was just 1 or 2 the other night.
Other night, yes. Yeah. So, again, I think some of the credit goes to our defenders. I think our guys were locked in on the scouting report the day before and during shoot-around. I think they were locked in on who they were guarding. So I thought that was good.
You also got a chance to see 2 guys, 2 transfers, trying to assimilate themselves into what you guys do. And you talk about Rashid Suleiman, who got here late, really had lost the entire summer.
Yep.
To trying to finish up. Obviously, Robert Carter, sort of a known quantity for you guys because he's been around, but still, he sat out a full year in between competitive games. So Thoughts on those two guys in particular?
I'll start with Robert. I think Robert understands what his value is to the team. He's worked extremely hard over the last year of getting his body right, getting his conditioning right. And he'll be the first to admit in the first 4 or 5 minutes he was a little winded because the game experience, the game wind, if you will, is a little bit different than practice.
Right.
It's different than running a sprint. It's different than getting on the treadmill.
It's a different energy.
It's a different energy. That's a great way of putting it. So I think he adjusted pretty well. He made shots. He made the right plays. He passed up a few shots and was just trying to be a team guy. He screened. He made the extra pass, which was great. Rashid, again, just defensively, I think he already knows what to do. He knows how to contest. He knows how to be in the right place. He's always talking on defense, and I thought he did a much better job offensively of getting everybody else shots.
Great passer.
Great.
Very unselfish player. Yeah. Curious, Cliff, you see these guys every single day of the year. And yet for those of us who don't, when we show up to a game like that, and it's been 6 months since we've seen them play, or more actually, the difference is so significant physically for these guys, to a man. And I don't know that because you see them every day, it's a little bit like seeing your kids grow up. You don't really appreciate the fact that they're growing up or growing out in some cases, like DeMonte sitting here. All these guys, so much more impressive physically than they have been.
Again, I think the entire staff will tell you, Kyle Tarp does a dynamite job with our players, their bodies, their nutrition, their sleep patterns, and everything that they do every day is geared towards being a better basketball player. So I think all the credit goes to him, but the credit should go to the players too because they've worked extremely hard to do that. So like you said, for people who don't see them every day, and they see them they haven't seen them in 6 months or 7 months, now the reality is, hey, they've worked hard on their conditioning, their nutrition, and their bodies.
Last question before we go to break, Cliff. There has to be something that you're taking out of that Mount St. Mary's game that's going to help you in the next game. Georgetown plays a little different style, but we did see some Princeton elements at times from Mount St. Mary's.
Mount St. Mary's ran a couple plays where the point guard up top made a spin move, drove it to the wing, cut back door for a handoff or to a flare screen, which is similar to some of the Princeton-like actions. So I thought that was good to prepare us going into Georgetown's game. So I think what it helped us do was communicate louder and more often.
It's bad coaching karma to ever look past an opponent to another opponent.
Sure.
Did you ever, over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, ever walk through any Georgetown stuff in the guise of, now that we can talk about it, Cliff, that game's beyond us, but in the guise of saying, hey, Mount St. Mary's is going to do a little bit of this?
No, I think we did a good job. I think in the summer, Coach Turgeon does a really good job of assigning games, scouting assignments to each assistant coach. So myself, Coach Ranson, Coach Clark, we each have our own separate 8 to 10 games throughout the year, and we're focused on those games. Then when we come together, then we all kind of discussed, hey, what the game plan is for that particular game. So it was good that I hadn't watched any of Georgetown stuff. I was focused on Mount St. Mary's for more than just one reason. But I was very focused on that. Coach Turgeon made sure the team was locked in and focused on that also.
Impressive discipline. And by the way, you had bragging rights up right for the Mount St. Mary's game, right?
There
was a lot going on.
I can stop.
That's assistant coach Cliff Warren. I'm Chris Nockey. You're listening to the Mark Turgeon Radio Show. We are live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, Maryland. And when we come back, we're going to get a visit here from 6'11" junior center, DeMonte Dodd. Muscle, steel, and sex appeal sitting right next to us. You're listening to the Maryland Terrapins Radio Network.
Now, once again, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Coach Turgeon is off for the night, but he's got a great replacement in assistant coach Cliff Warren. I'm Chris Nockey sitting in for Johnny Holiday, and a nice segment with Coach Warren. Now we got another guest, junior forward center, DeMonte Dodd.
What position are you, DeMonte? Could you tell us?
Play a little bit of everything, you know.
What was the compliment Coach Turgeon said to you today after you made that jumper from the corner?
He called me Durant.
He said, good shot, Durant. Good shot, Durant.
Well, your skill set has improved dramatically over these first couple of years. You've come a long, long way, DeMonte. What's the next step for you?
I would say the next step is offensively, just keep getting better. Keep working with Coach Arslander and, you know, of course, our assistant coaches, trying to polish my offensive game. Because I think defensively, I'm pretty much there. I mean, you can always keep working defensively, but offensively, I think I got to make a huge improvement.
I'm sure Coach Warren has probably told you that 100% of the shots that you pass up don't go in.
No.
Right? You got to take some shots. The other night, there were a couple of times, little overpassing maybe in the interior with, I know you tried to shovel one to Checo at one point in time, block to block.
Jared cut back door. He tried to thread the needle.
Yeah.
DeMonte seems to think sometimes he's Magic Johnson.
But I will tell you this, DeMonte's passing last year was much improved from his freshman year. A lot of, sort of high post, backdoor looks, those sorts of things. He's sort of got that.
He
that
takes
look
a lot
mastered.
of pride in his passing. Whenever we watch film, he's like, Coach Warren, rewind. Look at this pass. Look at this pass.
You started 31 out of 35 games last year, okay? And yet right now it appears, while you're certainly poised for a lot of minutes, they may be off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest difference?
Well,
Is there a difference in approach at all when you're on the bench?
No. I mean, it's kind of interesting that I'm saying this because it's more, you can bring the energy coming off the bench because you can see the difference. Like, not saying that no taking away from Diamond or Rob, but when me and Checo get in, like, we bring a lot of energy, and it's I like playing with Checo. Like, as you've seen, we got a lot of high-low passes and stuff, and we work real well together. So just bringing the energy off the bench, it's just fun to do. So I like it.
We could talk all day about hoops. Give us one thing that people don't know about DeMonte Dodd. Coach here said you're a natural-born comedian.
Oh, yeah.
True or false? Yeah?
That's true.
And musician.
Well, I know the musician. We've
and
actually had this.
And vocalist.
Can we do a lot of a cappella thing here?
No. Vocal skills, musical skills.
But you grew up in a musical family, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that what, remember the story, we talked about this on the air last year, that you grew up singing, right?
Yeah.
Singing and playing a little bit.
Yeah, I did more playing than singing.
Okay.
But because my aunt wouldn't let me do too much singing. She wouldn't let me play actually either. But my dad taught me real well, so I took upon that myself, playing the drums, and then, singing just here and there. So.
Now, Coach mentioned that you're sort of a natural-born comedian. Take you out of the mix right now. Who's the funniest guy on that team?
Funniest guy on the team. It's Jared Nickens.
Seriously?
Yeah, Jared Nickens.
Yeah, kind of a poker face for a guy who's...
He and Jared have a routine that is unbelievable. They can take it on the road. They can do it at home. Just today, when they were supposed to be sitting in my office talking about academics, they came in with a routine.
Nice.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we had a little Kurt Franklin on.
Oh, that's great.
They had a little video.
Yeah.
Playing Stomp, we was showing them some of the moves.
Good
showing
for you.
me some moves.
Yeah, showing you some
Yeah.
moves. Yeah, old guy, right?
Coach Warren said he's sang in a group also.
A long time ago.
Did you?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Keep telling.
You know what the name of the group was called?
I'm about to find out.
The Group.
The group. Yeah, you guys really reach for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do any of you guys do impressions of the coaching staff?
Mello and Jared, they do that real well.
They do impressions of Turge or Cliff, Coach Warren, or...
Yep, well, Mello...
And do they ever do them in front of the coaches?
Yep, Mello will do Coach... he'll do Coach Turgeon, and he'll do Coach Bino. And Jared will do Coach Warren.
Mello seems so shy,
Yeah, but when he's with us, he's not.
No, not at all.
boy.
Are they on? Are they good?
They're pretty good. They are pretty good. They don't do it often enough, but they are pretty good.
Yeah. DeMonte, what about the game that you played against Mount St. Mary's? What'd you feel like afterwards? Obviously, you guys are a work in progress, still trying to figure things out, but your thoughts on your performance?
On my performance, I thought I did pretty well. Made some good passes. Like you said, I got to go score when it's presented. So I got to stop passing so much. But other than that, I think I did a pretty good job. I was on the offensive glass, defensive glass, rebounding. Overall team performance, I thought we played well. Like I said, everyone brought the energy. Everyone was excited to play. And I think just, the collaboration, everyone coming together, as you can see on the court, like we're just happy to be out there with each other. And off the court, we're happy to be with each other. So.
Did it surprise either one of you guys, first game against the Mount St. Mary's, Friday night, 7 o'clock start, that you get 17,950 in there? There's not a seat to be had?
I thought based on the exhibition game against Southern New Hampshire, we were all pretty excited that we would get that type of crowd.
Yeah.
Not anymore. So to come out and just hear the fans, I think, Chris, as a coach, as a player, DeMonte as a player right now, how much energy fills the room. When you know people are cheering for you and with your team and they're behind you 100%, even during warm-ups, you get so excited for the game. You can't wait. You can do no wrong. So, again, our hats go off to all the fans,
Yeah, it's
especially the
fantastic.
students.
Yeah.
The students get there early. They get the newspapers. They're chanting and cheering. Again, we need more crowds like that to help us win games.
Well, now there's energy, and then there's Georgetown tomorrow night.
Sure.
So, little different animal. DeMonte, you're a local guy for all intents and purposes. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I would expect that you guys are as excited as could be about the opportunity that lies ahead.
Yeah, like what Coach Warren said, hats off to the fans. You know, they bring the energy. Like we said, we do it for them. We do it for ourselves, but we do it for them because, you know, they come out and support us every night. So we just, like you said, the Georgetown game, you know, I guess it was a rivalry a long time ago. So, I mean, we're just excited, you know, just to get out there and play and have a good game.
Cliff, local guy yourself, is it possible to have a rival be somebody that you don't play, that you haven't played?
Yes, I think, you know.
I mean, and I don't know the answer. I mean, but Georgetown, it's like, you know, two fighters that have been eyeballing themselves through the years just haven't had a chance to fight.
I'm not sure if you can say it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Yes, we are crosstown teams, but kids, if you will, like DeMonte and the kids on our team, they don't know anything about the history of Maryland and Georgetown playing each other. None of them were around when the teams were playing.
Yeah.
So they don't know the good, the bad, or the indifferent about why we haven't played. They just haven't played. The people in front of them haven't played, so there is no film.
Yep.
They're not Googling or YouTubing any of those games. That's what they know.
Well, the politics are ancient history now. It's we're 26 hours away from tip-off, which is really exciting. Our live guests tonight are brought to us by Capital One Bank, the official banking partner of Maryland Athletics. When we come back, we're going to visit with ESPN 980 midday host Kevin Sheehan, the host of the Sports Fix here in Washington, D.C., a Maryland grad, may offer a little historical perspective to this Georgetown rivalry, such as it is. You're listening to Maryland Terrapins basketball.
Now, once again, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Well, unfortunately, Mark Turgeon not with us here tonight. We do have assistant coach Cliff Warren ably sitting in for Coach Turgeon. I'm Chris Nockey sitting in for Johnny Holiday, and fortunate enough right now to spend a few minutes here with a good friend of the program and certainly a guy who's well known in town here. Kevin Sheehan is the host of the Sports Fix from noon to 2 on ESPN 980 here. And Kevin also, for full disclosure, is a Maryland alum. And Kevin, for you, waking up tomorrow morning with Georgetown on the horizon tomorrow night, it's got to feel a little bit like Christmas. This is a long time coming.
It is a long time coming, and you know that people like us that have been following the program since, you know, Lefty got here in the 70s, that this is a big deal. I mean, they haven't played, Nockey, they played once in the regular season in 35 years. The two, you know, big, you know, clear-cut heavyweight programs in the area have played once in 35 years in a regular season game, and it just is a shame that they haven't been able to, you know, sort of play this rivalry out on the floor, because it is a rivalry, and we both know it is, but it's been one in name only.
Yeah, and that brings to mind the question that Coach Warren and I were just kicking around. I mean, technically you'd have to call it a rivalry, which is odd considering they haven't played each other in 22 years. You know, you're hard-pressed to find another situation quite like that. But fortunately, the adults appear to be in charge here, and it looks like it may be something, Cliff, you could maybe be able to speak to this, that we can see more of in the future.
Again, if you're a fan, if you're a local fan, you definitely want to see more of it. And I think players these days, as you know, coaching, the players that we have at Maryland, the players that they have, grow up playing against each other since they're like 8 and under, 10 and under, 12 and under. So these guys play against each other, especially the local guys.
Yeah.
We have several local guys from the area. They do too. So, again, all the players know each other. They text each other. They Snapchat each other. They follow each other on Twitter. So, again, it would seem like it would be a natural fit.
Kevin, for you, you know, in this town, this time of the year, it's hard to move the needle if you're not talking about a story involving the burgundy and gold. But I know your station is going to be out for 5 hours prior to the game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like in November in the middle of a football season, especially after a Redskins win. But you know what, Naki? This is a top 2 to 3 sports event on the calendar, and it's going to become that. And we know what the scene will be tomorrow night. I don't know if it's going to be Duke or Carolina, but it's going to be, for a November game, as good as it can get. And, you know, you mentioned that the adults are in charge now. The irony of that is that Lefty and Coach Thompson are the best of friends now.
Yeah, I know.
They're so close, so they'll probably laugh at some of the stories that'll be told on the air tomorrow about how this thing sort of, it met its demise in the late 70s, early 80s. But, yeah, I mean, Turgeon and JT3 are close enough, and I think they recognize a good thing. And I'm glad this first one's at Comcast Center, because it's been since, the mid to late 70s since one of these were played in College Park.
Well, actually, we're calling that the Xfinity Center now, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
Your excuse.
I keep messing that up.
Grandfather didn't. Add to it a little twist of fate here. John Thompson II will be doing the national radio broadcast for the game tomorrow night, so he'll actually be in the building.
You know what? He is excellent, as you know, as an analyst on these games, and he's done a bunch of games for Westwood One, so it'll be good to see him in the building. I know the Georgetown people don't like Maryland at all, and they have resented in many ways sort of the attention that Maryland's gotten. You know, you go back to the 80s when Georgetown was really legitimately contending for national championships, yet locally Maryland was still sort of the big deal, or as big a deal as Georgetown was. But this is going to be a scene tomorrow night. It'll be exciting to see it happen.
Well, you mentioned what it's going to be like on a local level and the significance locally, but when ESPN is doing Sports Center from the floor,
Scott's going to be there tomorrow night doing his show after the game.
Yeah, I mean that takes it to a whole new level. I mean, when you and obviously Van Pelt's access and influence around College Park is huge, but I mean what a great win for the program and for the university, really, to have that kind of exposure.
Yeah, and I talked to him a little while ago, he just wanted Coach Warren and Coach Turgeon and Coach Ranson and everybody else in the staff to know that the show will be much better if you win.
Are they concerned at all about, in this day and age, you have to be worried about kids rushing the court in the event of a win. Does that take away from the sports?
We got to act like we've been there tomorrow.
Kevin, I promise you, I will. Okay, yeah. And I'm sure you will. But it's got to impact the ESPN's plans after the game.
I think the best thing, if we thump Georgetown tomorrow night, is to make it out to be like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And it is a big deal, and the game itself is really the big deal. Winning it is important, and I'm sure Coach Warren can talk about the recruiting, impact locally of this game and winning the game. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, let's save that for number 1 Maryland against number 2 Michigan State or Indiana late in the season.
I love anytime you start out a sentence that says "if we thump Georgetown." It begs the question: what number are you wearing tomorrow, Kevin?
Don't pull Andy Poland.
Nah,
right.
I'm just kidding, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. No, it's
great to have you.
It'll be a blast to be out there with you.
Thank you very much for being on. Thank you for your
support.
support.
All right, take care, guys.
That's the Sports Fix host Kevin Sheehan, ESPN 980 here in Washington, D.C. We're going to be back to Buffalo Wild Wings in just a minute. You're listening to the Mark Turgeon Show on the Maryland Terrapins Radio Network.
Now, once again, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Well, no Mark Turgeon here tonight, but assistant coach Cliff Warren sitting in for him. I'm Chris Naki in for Johnny Holiday, and this is the Miller Coors Cold Hard Facts Series History, brought to you by the Coors Brewing Company. Remember, 21 means 21, and Cliff, Maryland leaves Georgetown in that series, history series, all-time series, 36-26, for what that's worth. It's November right now, and you see a lot of squirrely scores and things happening across the country. Monmouth goes and wins at Poly Pavilion at UCLA. William & Mary goes and collects probably a very sizable guarantee check and wins going away at NC State. Wisconsin loses at home. These are things that have to have you shaking your head when you're reading the box scores.
Well, I think at this time of year it happens, and I think every year there are more and more of those type of scores. I think there are a lot of good players out there, and clearly there are a lot of good coaches. And I think, as you mentioned, the parity is all over. And yes, sometimes the bigger schools do overlook the smaller schools because they're looking for who's the next opponent, or hey, let's get right. Or you never know rosters. Somebody may be hurt. The starting center, the starting point guard may be hurt, might not be eligible. They're waiting on somebody else. So I think a lot of times that happens at the beginning of the year. I've always asked the question. People talk about scrimmages and exhibitions. Hey, you lose to this team in an exhibition. What does that mean for the year? Do you ever follow that team and say, wow, did they have an awful year because they lost in an exhibition game? Or did they still have a good year?
Sure.
Because sometimes it's a wake-up call for the coach, for the players, and say, hey, we've got to get our act together. And maybe that's just the wake-up call that particular team needs to have a good season.
All right, well, let's talk about that. You guys went up to well, I don't know that we can talk about it, but you had an exhibition, or excuse me, a scrimmage behind closed doors. By all reports, things didn't go quite as had hoped. But so how do you respond? How do you handle that? Because obviously you don't want to adjust your goals at all. You don't want to adjust your dreams, but certainly the level of play has to be addressed.
I think it's a good measure of where you are at that particular time of year. A lot of coaches, and we're no different, have not put certain things in by the time you've played your first scrimmage. By the time you play your first inter-squad scrimmage, there are phases to things. So the first week you may be working on just offense. The next week you may be putting in out-of-bounds plays, side out-of-bounds. The next week you may be working on defenses or presses or things like that. So different coaches have different philosophies. So I think throughout the year, just depending on what your philosophy is as a coach, as a program, you'll put different things in to adjust. And based on your schedule, you may need to have certain things in early, and you may just say, hey, we may wait. You may not play against any teams that go zone until 4 or 5 games in, or until your conference play. So then you may bring in zone offense later on.
So sometimes when you read about the results of these behind closed-door scrimmages, they're really out of context. You don't really know you don't know the entire story.
Absolutely, because most people, I think we can say the same thing. It's not just a 40-minute game. There are 1-minute games. There could be situational games. There could be both coaches agree, hey, let's just play zone for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Hey, I'm going to give you 6 timeouts. We're only going to play in the half court. Hey, we're only going to play on side out of bounds. And then we're going to play 20 minutes of this, 20 minutes of this, and then another 10 minutes. So I think it's great for coaches because you can control everything.
Right. Well, 24 hours away, Georgetown looms. I know they're not your scout, but you've certainly had a chance to see them play. Very talented point guard and Smith Rivera. They've got good size, good length, really all the way around.
Very good player, an all-league player in the Big East. He shoots it extremely well, so we cannot come out with our hands down. He's a very more than capable three-point shooter. I couldn't tell you what his percentage is, but I'm sure it's very high. He's strong, he's physical, and again, he's very experienced. Last year, I believe, he was going to put his name in the draft because he was just that good. Decided to come back to school because they're going to have a very good team, and I think he wanted to boost his overall draft status. I hear he's a really good kid. He's very coachable, so again, he's going to be a handful.
What is it? Is there a level of difficulty? Now, you're going to play 3 Princeton-style teams this season. To prepare for a game like this you took Saturday off, so you practiced Sunday, practiced again today, obviously. But how difficult is it to prepare for a team like Georgetown in just 2 days?
I think some of their concepts on offense, we practice guarding throughout the year. I think an amazing thing to me, now being an assistant again, I think one of the first things I learned about Mark Turgeon was he practices different actions, offensive actions, or cuts or plays that teams do around the country. We practice those actions throughout the year. So even last year, we didn't play Georgetown, but we played some teams that had some Princeton-like actions, but we had practiced those things at the beginning of the year. People talk about UCLA cuts or backdoor cuts or drive and kick plays or dribble reverse plays. So we practice different types of actions every day in practice so that when we're preparing, like you said, in the next 2 days for Georgetown, we're already ready and prepared for, this team plays this way. We've seen it. We've heard the verbiage before, spin moves, backdoor, flare screen. So we've heard those things before, so our players are used to guarding certain actions.
Interesting tomorrow night. One of the most interesting things to me would be the pace of the game.
Sure.
Georgetown can be very deliberate, particularly in a half-court set. 30-second clock, I don't know if that helps them or not. Probably not. But they do what they do.
Sure, they're going to do it regardless if it's 24, 30, or 35 seconds. I think JT3 has done an excellent job with his program. I think the kids have all bought into their style, their play. And yes, most people say, hey, they're half-court based. But I think they have some really good basketball players, some really good athletes, some fast guys who want to get up and down. So I don't think people should sleep on their offensive ability in transition, too. We've got to make sure we guard that as well. That's
assistant coach Cliff Warren sitting in for Mark Turgeon. I'm Chris Nockey in for Johnny Holiday. And a reminder, we'll be back the week after Thanksgiving on Thursday, December 3rd at 7 o'clock here at Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park for another live audience broadcast of the Mark Turgeon radio show. And when we get back, Cliff, I want to talk to you a little bit about the expectations and the burden sometimes of expectations. You're listening to the Mark Turgeon Show on the Maryland Terrapins Radio Network.
Now, once again, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Playing the role of head coach Mark Turgeon is assistant coach Cliff Warren. We are here at Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park. I'm Chris Nockey sitting in for Johnny Holiday. It's time to check the inbox to answer some fan emails, Coach Warren. To submit a question for Coach Turgeon, visit umterps.com and click the Ask Coach Turgeon button. Brought to you by the University of Maryland Medical Center. And Cliff, question number 1. Tomorrow night is one of the most anticipated non-conference games in the last 10 or 15 years. How do you keep the guys focused and prepared without letting the hype affect them? That's from Chris Savoy in Baltimore.
I think Coach Turgeon did a really good job of busting their bubble, if you will. Just when they think a little too much about the game.
Humility is a good thing, right? Yeah.
Coach Turgeon's done a great job of putting some extra drills in place or some extra sprints here and there to keep them humble and focused and hungry to just try to get better.
Question number 2 comes from Sarah Zimmerman in Bowie. How did you think some of the new guys, Diamond and Jalen specifically, handled their first regular season game in front of the home crowd on Friday night?
I think they'll both probably tell you before the game started they had some butterflies in their stomach, but I think
they're supposed to, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to. Yeah,
Yep.
they were anticipating, scoring, defending, and all those things. I thought Diamond handled himself very well. He scored in the post and made some nice passes, defended pretty well. Jalen did a good job coming in off the bench and bringing some energy, like DeMonte said. And I think what helped those guys was the week prior to when we had the exhibition against Southern New Hampshire. Those guys played some significant minutes.
Right.
They both saw the ball go in. And, as a coach and as a player, once you see the ball go in, your confidence level goes way up.
And this from Ben Sanders in Hagerstown. What do you think is the biggest difference from this year's team compared to last year's team?
That's a good question, the biggest difference. I think last year's team had juniors and seniors that dominated. We had a dominating
dominated the locker room, dominated the personality of the team.
I was going to say we had a dominating personalities on that team. Des Wells, Rashad Pack,
John
Graham, Evan Smotrich. We had some dominating personalities, guys who were 22 and 23 years old. So again, there were a lot of things that Coach Turgeon didn't have to say that those 4 or 5 guys would say and do. So it took the onus. They took the onus themselves. So now Coach Turgeon is having to explain and re-explain some things to newer guys.
That's interesting, and that's something that nobody ever sees.
Sure.
And you always assume, because let's face it, we're old enough to make these kind of judgments. It seems like every year or every generation the athletes get better and stronger, faster, better. Doesn't mean that they understand the game as well or that they know how to play as well.
Right, and I would just say, just from the point of just the experience alone, I think the staff that we have has had a lot more basketball experience than someone like Diamond Stone has had.
Right.
So when the new guys come in, there's totally different verbiage that they might be used to. A certain kind of cut may be called something else.
Yes.
The way we close out, the way we switch, the way we trap, the way we press. The terminology alone is different for those guys. But last year's team, they had heard it all before. They had seen it all before. And those things were a part of their culture, a part of their DNA.
That's assistant coach Cliff Warren. I'm Chris Nockey. We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park. You're listening to the Mark Turgeon radio show, and we're going to talk about these expectations, Cliff, when we come back to wrap up the show. This is Maryland Terrapins basketball.
Welcome back to the Mark Turgeon Radio Show on the Maryland Sports Radio Network.
The Mark Turgeon Radio Show is brought to you by these network broadcast partners.
Capital One Bank, the official bank of Maryland Athletics, and by Toyota. Let's go places.
Now, once again, live from Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park, here's Maryland basketball head coach Mark Turgeon.
Mark Turgeon has a commitment on campus tonight. He will be back here in a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving. Assistant Coach Cliff Warren joins us. I'm Chris Nockey, sitting in for Johnny Holiday, who happens to be with Coach Turgeon tonight. And Cliff, you're no stranger to the Final Four. You've been a part of some very, very good programs, very good teams. You were part of a Georgia Tech team that made just a terrific run. What does that take? It seems to me an amalgamation of luck. Obviously, players. You got to have the players. You got to have enough size. You got to have that point guard, that personality.
All the above. I think it absolutely takes some luck. Very simple. It does take hard work. Things have to fall in place. You have to be injury-free. Yes, you have to be talented. You got to have a good coaching staff. You got to have everybody on the same page. You got to have the right fans. You got to have the right support from an administration standpoint. All those things have to come together if you want to be good and make a run in the NCAA tournament.
And this team, you feel like, everybody gets, with all the preseason polls and things, prognostications, there are always a couple of teams that get anointed prior to the season. It remains to be seen if this team has those things, but from what you've seen in practice, your thoughts?
I think talent-wise, yes, we have enough. But, again, it's way too early to talk about what's going to happen in March. I tell people all the time, yes, we have a game tomorrow. Yes, we want to win, but they're not giving away championships right now in November. Right. So we are playing for the end of the year.
That's Assistant Coach Cliff Warren. I'm Chris Nockey. Thanks for joining us tonight at Buffalo Wild Wings here in College Park. You've been listening to the Mark Turgeon Radio Show, brought to you by the good folks on the Terrapin Sports Radio Network.